So we'll move on to the rules of inferences in this. So in this section, we are going to see the valid arguments. So how can we make the valid arguments, and how can we consider, how can we judge whether it is a valid argument or not? Inference rules for propositional logic, using rules for inference to build arguments, rules of inferences for quantified statements, building arguments for quantified statements. These are the things we will go for checking in this particular section. So we'll recall the Socrates example. We have the two premises: all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. And the conclusion is Socrates is mortal. How do we get the conclusion from these premises? So how we are going to draw the conclusion? In general, when we go for conclusion, we will write a symbol that this is the statement 1 and this is the statement 2. With these two statements, we can derive. Therefore, the conclusion is like this. So same kind of narration will be there in the predicate logic representation also. That is all inference rules. These inference rules are very, very important, especially to feed it into the artificial intelligence and also to the artificial intelligence programming like Prolog and any other AI programming. The reason is there exist some statements like a robot, for example. If a person comes and say hello, the robot should respond as hello. So that means all men, there exists a man or there exists a person who says hello, then there exists a person and say hello, then robot should say hello. So this how you can represent this inference rules. That is with the help of this logics. Okay, this is very popular and very popularly used in the AI applications, especially, and also to represent the inference rules in the a declarative language called Prolog. We can express the premise above the line and the conclusion in the below line in predicate logic as an argument. Just now I told you in brief, now it is in the description in the mathematical representation. For all x, man of x implies mortal of x. This already we have seen in the last lectures in the predicate logic. So we have we have made it as man of Socrates. So when I say man of Socrates, so man of Socrates means mortal of Socrates. So therefore, mortal of Socrates. So that means below this line you are supposed to place the conclusion, and above the line we need to place the premises. We'll show how to construct valid arguments in two stages. First for propositional logic and then for predicate logic. The rule of inferences are the essential building block in the construction of valid arguments. The first thing is propositional logic, which is called inference rules, and another thing is predicate logic. Inference rules for propositional logic plus additional inference rules to handle variables and quantifiers. So propositional logic is a simple inference rules, but the predicate logic is the combination of inference rules for propositional logic plus we add some additional inference rules to handle the variables and quantifiers, because it is all men. All men means that means we are supposed to represent for all. Okay, there exists some person, or there exists a student, there exists a woman who has traveled on all flights or who flighted all airlines. So there we use the existence in quantifier. So when we have the multiple predicate propositional logics and if we make the inference rules, then when a complex situation comes, then we use the predicate logic to frame that particular thing. Arguments in propositional logic. An argument propositional logic is a sequential propositions. All but the final proposition are called premises. So the last statement is the conclusion statement. The argument is valid if the premises implies the conclusion. An argument form is the argument that is valid no matter what propositions are substituted into the propositional variables. Here is an example. If the premises are P1, P2, P3 and so on Pn, and the conclusion is Q, then P1 and P2 and P3 and so on Pn, if all these propositions are satisfied, then it implies that it is giving you a Q, which is a tautology. That means when all these propositions are true, then it is this entire expression is always true, which is called tautology. Tautology is one which is always true. So inference rules are all simple argument from forms that will be used to construct more complex argument forms. Here is an example: rule of inference for propositional logic modus ponens. So here P to Q, P implies Q. That means means P. So therefore it is Q. So corresponding tautology is P and P implies Q. So P and P implies Q means P implies P and Q. So P implies P and Q. So whenever you say P implies P and Q and it is implying Q, then it is represented like this. Let P is it is knowing and Q be I will study discrete maths. If it is knowing, then I will study discrete maths. It is knowing. So therefore I will study discrete maths. So this is what the inference that you can make out of this particular thing. So P is nothing but it is knowing implies that I will study discrete maths. So if there exists P, that means it is knowing, then I am studying the discrete maths. Modus tollens. So P implies Q, negation Q means negation P. So how is it? The corresponding tautology is like this: negation Q and P implies Q gives you negation P. So that means here Q is I will study discrete maths and P is it is knowing. It is knowing implies I will study discrete maths. That means if it is negation Q, then I will not study discrete maths. So when you say I will not study discrete maths, that means there is no snow outside. So it is what is not it is not snowing. So this is what the corresponding tautology and representation. Hypothetical syllogisms. P implies Q and Q implies R. That means that it is a transitive kind of thing. P implies R. So P implies Q and Q implies R. P to Q and Q to R means P to R. It's a kind of transitive dependency kind of thing, transitive implication. So corresponding tautology P to Q and Q to R. That means P implies R. This kind of tautologies we have seen previously. Let P is it is knowing, Q is I will study discrete maths. Let R be the I will get an A. So if it is knowing, I will get an A. That is what the meaning. While coming to this disjunctive syllogisms, P or Q, negation P, then it is Q. Because when you say P or Q, either P is false or Q is false, but the condition will become true. So either negation P, but Q is as intact. So the result is Q only. So the corresponding tautology is like this: negation P or P and Q implies Q. So I will study discrete maths, I will study English literature. So I will study discrete maths or I will study English literature. So I will not study discrete maths means obviously you will study the English literature. Addition. So here P, corresponding tautology, P implies P or Q. So I will study discrete maths, I will visit Las Vegas. I will study discrete maths means so therefore I will study discrete maths or I will visit Las Vegas. So either any of this can be true. So corresponding tautology. Simplification P and Q. So which will give you the Q as the value, that is P and Q implies P. So P is I will study discrete maths and I will study literature is the Q. I will study discrete maths and English literature, therefore I will study discrete maths. So and is a condition, thereby it will get the thing. Well, coming to the conjunction P and Q, that is corresponding tautology is, see here within the brackets P and within the brackets Q. So what is the meaning of this? That is, P is an independent proposition and Q is an independent proposition. So let P is will be I will study discrete maths and Q is I will study English literature. Then therefore this will give you I will study discrete mathematics and I will study English literature. So resolution, negation P or R, negation P, sorry, negation P or R, negation P or Q. That means that Q or R. So that is what the meaning of this particular resolution. Let P is I will study discrete maths, R is I will study English literature, let Q be the I will study databases. So what is the meaning of this? I will not study discrete maths or I will study English literature. So what is the meaning of this? That means I will study databases or I will study the English literature. So there is no discrete mathematics in this code. So using these rules of inferences to build valid arguments, a valid argument is a sequence of statements. Each statement is either a premise or following from previous statements by rule of inferences. The last statement is called conclusion. This already we have seen. The valid arguments taken from the form S1, S2, S3 independent statements. Then finally you combine them with or and operator implies. Then you will get the conclusion. So here is an example from a single proposition P or P implies Q. Show that Q is a conclusion. So this can be written as P or P implies this can be represented like this P or P, that is P or P implies Q, which is premise. This can be simplified as you can take the simple argument P, simplification using 1, and P implies what is 1 here previously we have taken here. So P implies Q is P. Okay, this is what the first rule of inference that we have seen. And P implies Q, this can be simplified using 1. And finally, if there exists P implies Q, then we can mention as Q. So this is why using the 2 and 3 operations. So this is the way. First, you need to remember, you need to make note of these inference rules. Then using these inference rules, the given proposition, single proposition can be, the conclusion of the single proposition that was given can be identified. Here is another example, valid arguments. Example 2, with this hypothesis, it will not sunny in the air afternoon and it is colder than yesterday. We will go swimming only if it is sunny. If we do not go swimming, then we'll take a canoe trip. If we take a canoe trip, then we'll be home by sunset. Using inference rules, construct a valid argument for the conclusion. That means we will come by sunset. So choose the proportional variables. P, it is sunny this afternoon, and R is we'll go swimming. T is we'll be home by sunset. Q is it is colder than yesterday. S is a variable, proportional variable. We'll take a canoe trip. So translating into the proportional logic, okay, negation P and Q. That is what the first statement. It is not sunny this afternoon and it is colder than yesterday. Next one is R implies P. What is R? We will go to swimming only if it is sunny. That is R implies the P. That is it is sunny this afternoon. Next is we will go to swimming, then we will take canoe trip. That is negation R implies S. So this is the way the propositional logic will be developed, and finally the conclusion is T. So construct the valid argument, negation P and Q. This is premise. This can be simplified as using 1. So it is negation P. Then R implies P is a premise. This can be simplified using modus tollens using 2 and 3, which was shown previously. It is negation R. When in case of negation R implies S, this can be reduced to S because of modus ponens using 4 and 5. S implies T. This can be represented as T modus ponens using 6 and 7. So thereby, finally, you will get the conclusion as T in the 8th stage. So for this entire thing, these are the things that are need to be remembered, like rules of inferences for propositional logic, modus ponens, modus tollens, hypothetical syllogisms, and a disjunctive. These are the addition, simplification, conjunction, resolution. So these are the things one must remember so that this minimization can be done. Handling quantified statements. Valid arguments for quantified statements are a sequence of statements. Each statement is either a premise or follow from previous statements by rule of inferences, which includes rule of inference for propositional logic, rule of inference for quantified statements. The rule of inferences for quantified statements are introduced in the, obviously that we'll see next in the next slides. Universal initialization for all x, p of x, therefore p of c. Our domain consisting of all dogs and Fido is a dog. So all dogs are cuddly, therefore Fido is cuddly. So p of c for an arbitrary c for all x p of x. This is called universal generalization. P of c for an arbitrary c. So therefore x p of x. Existential initialization. There exists x p of x, p of c for some element c. So this is what the existential initialization. Please remember, below the line you need to give the conclusion, above the line you need to write the premises. There is someone who got an A in the course. Let's call her A and say that A got an A. This is what the conclusion. Existential generalization. Here this is initialization and this is generalization. Generalization means it will again come to the same idea of there exists. So P of C for some element C, in generalization, this denominator will come, this particular below the line will come to the above and the above line will come to below. That is what generalization. Initialization will give the existential statement, some statement here, then will give some, will represent particular value. P of C for some element C, there exists x P of x. Michelle got an A in the class, therefore someone got an A in the class. This is generalization. You don't know who got who got A. There exists X. Somebody is there. You have to go through all members in the class. So that particular, sometimes this Michelle is the one X. He may got or he or she may got this A. Using rule of inferences, using the rules of inferences, construct a valid argument to show that John Smith has 2 legs. Is a consequence of premises. Every man has 2 legs. John and Smith is a man. So it is just like all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Just like you need to go for conclusion. So for all x, m of x implies L of x. M of j implies L of j. So obviously using the inference M of j and L of j. Here is another example. Someone who passed the first exam has not read the book. That means a student in the class has not read the book is one proposition. Everyone in the class passed the first exam. There exists x, c of x and negation b of x. The one who not studied book but got the has passed the first exam in the class. And for all x, C of x implies P of x. So thereby you can make the conclusion that there exists x, P of x, that is person, that is P of x, and negation B of x. So this can be minimized like this. There exists x, C of x, and negation B of x, which is the premise. So C of A and negation B of A. This is just like P and negation Q. So this can be represented as P itself. So C of A. Next, for all x, C of x implies P of x. C of x implies P of x means this P implies Q like that, which means C of A implies P of A. So P of A is the minimization made. Next, negation B of A and P of A and negation B of A. So conjunction from 6 and 7. So finally, using this conjunction, using these simplifications by substituting in this, we got there exists x, P of x, and negation B of x. So only thing in this is you are supposed to be very careful in the remembering of these things, these arguments. Resolution, conjunction, simplification. These must be remembered to minimize this. Returning to the Socrates example, there exists x, man of x implies mortal of x, man of Socrates, mortal of Socrates. Universal modus ponens combines universal instantiations and modus ponens into one rule. There exists x, P of x implies Q of x. P of A, where A is a particular element in the domain. So thereby you will get Q of A. This rule concludes used in the this rule actually could be used in the Socrates example to conclude that Socrates is mortal. So this is what the inference rules. For all the inference rules, you are supposed to remember these rules which was mentioned here: conjunction, simplification, addition, disjunctive syllogisms, hypothetical syllogisms, modus tollens, modus ponens. So these are the rules one must remember and should remember thoroughly. Then only they can go for minimization whenever any complex premise has been provided.